Hello, this is Chidero, bringing you yet another Rainbow Loom Bling bracelet tutorial. Today I'd like to show you how to make the layered ruffles bracelet created by Yarn Journey. It is a fabulous bracelet, very elegant looking, and as soon as I saw it I thought, oh, we could probably add some bling to that. So I don't have the bracelet in front of me right now. I actually had given it away for charity, so I will start out by showing you some of the supplies needed and which step you need to be at to begin. So I am going to use different colors than I used in the first bracelet, but I will correlate which colors I'm using, which are, you know, in retrospect the same colors in the bracelet in the first one I've done. So first is first, you will need to follow along Yarn Journey's tutorial on YouTube, as this is a collaboration tutorial with Yarn Journey. My goal is to simply show you how to add the bling to the bands and place that onto the loom. So first you will need to follow her up to step 1, which is adding a single chain of bands all the way up the middle. So in my initial bracelet, my single chain I had done in a Rainbow Loom's glitter pink bands. Today I have used the Rainbow Loom gold glitter bands. As you can see, I'm already done with that step. The bands that we're going to place the rhinestones on, you will need approximately 13 rhinestones because we're going to do every other peg. I already have all of these, all of the beads on the bands, because last night I attempted a tutorial after the hour of 11 p.m. and I failed. So I had to take it apart. So this is the only reason you see most of my bands have beads on them already. So I'm going to use Rainbow Loom's blue pearl. I'm sorry, this is the blue Persian collection, which is a beautiful blue with a gold tint. Because we're going to be doing 3 layers of ruffles, I chose 3 different colors. So my next layer of ruffle is going to be in the Rainbow Loom Persian Hot Pink band, and I'm going to be using the same pink bead, which is a faucet bead that I used in the original bracelet. And every other band on the bracelet that is going to be done in the glitter gold. So I know it looks a little bit overwhelming right now, but as we go along I will explain exactly what I'm doing and why. So you will need a threading tool. In my case right now I'm using a very, very thin gauged jewelry wire, a C-clip, and honestly they're beads of your choice. If you want to do it exactly as the bracelet that I had posted, then you know, like I mentioned, these are the faucet beads. Some of them are a smaller bead type, and then I also have a larger bead that I am using. So grab onto Yarn Journey's tutorial and please take a good, you know, get a good idea from her exactly how we're going to design this bracelet, as it is her design. And we'll meet back after you have your center row chain on your loom. Okay, so now that you have your loom set up with a single chain, simply place down the center of your loom. We'll go ahead with the step 2. And step 2, as you're going to be adding 3 layers of ruffles, the first layer is going to be one of the ruffles that is on the side of the bracelet. In my original blinged out bracelet, I used the light pink glitter bands by Rainbow Loom. My center, which is the second layer of ruffle, was the glitter blue, which has the rhinestones on it. And my third layer was the same exact as the first, which was the glitter pink on the bracelet. Today I would like to change it up a bit. I am lacking beads, so I have, I think, 3 bands that aren't going to have a rhinestone on it, which is completely okay because this will wrap around your wrist. And I am also using both large and small beads of a variety throughout the ruffles. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take and use every other band we're going to have a bead on. Okay, we're going to try to save some beads here, and it's still going to look pretty awesome. So we're going to do a zigzag from this center row of pins. We're going to go out to the left the whole entire bracelet. So we're not going to start with our first pin, but we're going to start with our second pin. So we're going to place our first band, second middle peg, over to the left. This will be without a bead. Now let me go ahead and let's thread on 3 beads. So I take a very thin gauged jewelry wire. Excuse me. Okay, we take our band in the V position. We're going to place the band down into the center, grabbing the wire so the 2 ends are together. And then we're going to find the hole on our bead and simply place both of those ends inside, out the other. Just give it a tug, and there you have it. These beads are fabulous. They're my favorite to loom because they're very soft or round edged, so they typically go on the bands really, really well. Now this next one that we're going to do is a smaller bead. So it is the exact same type except just a tiny bit smaller, which means when you go to place this on your band, you will have to tug just a tad bit more, but please do it slowly. And we want to place our beads in the middle every single time. Any bracelet you do, always place your beads in the middle because you can always adjust them once they're on your bracelet. Okay, let's do one more. We're going to find our hole, make sure that these 2 ends are together, place them through the hole, and carefully slide it down on. Okay, so now we have 3 that we can at least start with and give you a good idea on how we're going to place these onto our loom. So since we're going to do every other band with a bead, and our first band was the opposite color, that's just my choice. You could use the same exact color. The first band though does not have a bead. So because we're going to be doing a zigzag design, we're going to take this band here with the bead on it, and we're simply going to place one end of the band on the left peg, the other end of the band on the center peg. So with the every other configuration, let's take another gold band without a bead, put it from the center out to the left. Now we're going to take another beaded band, and we're going to take that one from the left, and we're going to place it back onto the next center peg. Next is a plain gold one. And finally another beaded band from the outside left to the next center peg. And we'll go ahead and throw another one of the plain bands on going out to the left. Okay, so as you can see, what I've done here is we started from the second peg, and it is a zigzag design. There are so many possibilities that you could do. This one has a ton of beads, but it comes out gorgeous because of all of the layers. But this time I chose just to do every other band. So in the end, all it is all of your pegs that are going from, you know, the left to the center, going upwards like this. Those are the ones that you're going to put your bands on. All of our bands without a bead are going to go out in this direction. So it's going to be the exact same pattern the whole way up as we're doing every other band. So go ahead and finish this pattern all the way up the loom, and then we'll meet back after that. Okay, so we now have our loom filled up with the zigzag design. We started out with a plain band and put a beaded band, a plain band. So every one of our pegs going up of our loom in this direction have a plain band, and every peg going facing towards the inside of the loom all have a beaded band. Again, you can do any type of design that you would like. You could put a bead on every single one of these bands. Today I just like to do every other one. So let's turn our looms around, and of course our goal is to follow Yarn Journey's tutorial, and she does a great job explaining the looming technique. So at this point on this step, we do put a cap band on here, and unlike most bracelets, we're actually going to loom and then place bands, loom and place bands. So I'm just going to start this one out. So we're going to go underneath our capping band, and we're only going to grab the top band, which in my case here is the pink band, and we're going to loom that over to the right. As Yarn Journey mentions, you never touch this bottom row that goes up the center of the loom, the entire bracelet until the end. So please be careful picking up your band, so you're not going to grab that one. So I'm just going to do a couple here just to show you what the bead does here. It's when you put your bead in the middle of the band, okay, you see it's right in the middle. You have your typical teardrop shape. It's not necessarily looking like a teardrop, but it's placed in the middle between these two pegs. And then of course this is your normal loom look whenever you would do a zigzag without a bead. So let's take and we'll do this one here, making sure that we're grabbing because we did every other different color. This one is the gold. Okay, now we're going to add loom over this one here with the bead. So it's just simply taking one side of the band and folding it back over upon itself exactly how you would typically do any band, except there's just a bead in the middle. That's it. So let's go ahead and finish up and loom this entire row all the way up our loom, and then we'll meet back. All right, so now we have our whole loom done with our first layer of ruffles loomed all the way up, and we have every other band with a bead on it. So as you can see, when it is every other, all of my gold for my bracelet here are all looped onto the center peg, and all of my pink are all looped onto the outer peg. And again, this is because I'm using two different colors. This is how mine has come out. But in the gist of it all, if you're using a bead every other band, all of your beads are going to end up pretty much right there in the center. So our next step here is to place the second layer, and this layer is a pretty important part of this bracelet. Very, very, very important that you do listen to the way that Yarn Journey explains how to place this layer and the importance of the color. So with this one, I choose to use the blue Persian bands. And again, I'm going to do in every other configuration with the rhinestones. So as Yarn Journey explains, this layer here is the one that's the dominant color in the middle of the layered ruffles bracelet. So this is the time that you would want to add a, I call them the bling bead. This is why I use the rhinestones in this step, so that way it would end up in the center of my bracelet. So we're going to go ahead and I will show you how to add 3 of the rhinestones, and we will place 3 onto our loom. So we will need our threading tool and our beads and our bands. So these ones are, they're very difficult. They're the hardest bead that I've used, and that's simply because they are square and they have round, or they have sharp edges. So you're probably likely to break some bands. I break one almost every bracelet I do, but the outcome of it is so awesome that, you know, I try not to add beads to like limited edition or pricey bands because I don't want to break them. But in this case, because we're doing a special tutorial, it doesn't matter. We just want to learn the threading process and make our bracelet beautiful. So as you could see, I put my band down in the middle, and I'm going to turn this bead around, and we're going to thread it from the front here to the back, making sure that these 2 strands are together, which can be a little bit tricky because we have to make it both of those are not together for me. There we go. Sorry. Okay. One thing that I think might help that I've noticed is I try to line up this band where it's not to the side like that. I try to make it where it is kind of in line with the rhinestone, and I'm hoping that that is one reason that I might not be breaking so many bands. So let's try to place this onto our, there we go. So we just gave it a tug. It is a very, very snug fit, and we're putting it in the middle of our band. Okay, next one. So this time I'm going to make sure that both of my ends are tightly together so we can place this bead on this band. Mine aren't exactly together, so it's a little bit off. Okay, again, I'm going to try to make sure that this band is in the same position as the rhinestone and gently pull. And there you go. It happens every tutorial, and I never edit it. I never edit this out because I want you to see it's going to happen. Let's try our next one. And these only really, honestly, it only happens for me 90% of the time when I use these rhinestones. But, okay, let's try this again. And plus you're trying to make sure you're, I want to make sure you guys can see it. Usually it'd be up in my eyeballs and I'd be... There we go. Got it on. Alright, let's try this again. Trying to make sure that this is straight. And we got a winner. Awesome. Okay, that's number 2. Need to get me another pig. I need to get another piece of wire. Okay, let's do our last one and then let's try to put these on this loom. Uh-oh, I lost a bead. Here it is. Okay, so as you can see, and I hope you've watched my other tutorials because I do a lot more explaining in the first tutorial on the over and under bracelet from Justin's Toys on exactly how to make sure that your wire is cut and even and all of that. Alright, ready? Alright, so it seems like the second one in all the tutorials likes to break on me. Okay, so we have 3 on our bands, and I'm just going to show you just putting a couple of these on, and you can go ahead and finish up on your own. Okay, so Yarn Journey has explained an important step or an important note to have in mind when you're doing this second layer. I highly suggest that you listen to what she's telling you as far as which band you're going to have as a dominant color that's going to show up on your bracelet. And I say this because I'm only doing every other with a rhinestone, so I'm going to place my bands in the exact idea that she is given. That way the rhinestone will be the one that's coming out on top. So I'm just going to place a regular band first, and we're going to do the same exact design as the zigzag all the way up. So she does explain that this second band that you're placing, so all of the bands that are going on these pegs here are going to be your dominant band. So this is why we're going to place the rhinestone bands on these pegs. So we are definitely sure that we're going to see these once this is loomed and done. So again, zigzag design. All of the bands that are going from the center out are going to be a plain band. All of the pegs that are going from the outer pin to the inner pin are going to be a rhinestone. And even though these are difficult, the rhinestones on the bands, they give me a little bit of issue. It's still okay to move them once they're on the band. I think it's a lot of just the initial placement that may give us some difficulty sometimes. I'm going to throw one more on. This is a big step, I guess, on this bracelet. Make sure we have it squared away. Okay, so you do want to make sure, if you can, to make these rhinestones all facing in the same direction. It's not necessary, but at the end of the bracelet you'll have to do it anyhow. So I just kind of make sure that they're all, you know, facing up and they're not crooked and they're in the center. Okay, so as you can see, every other peg, so all of the pegs that are going from the outer pins to the inner pins all have a rhinestone on it. And go ahead and finish this pattern all the way up to your loom, and then we're going to do the exact same as the first layer, and we're going to loom it down. So go ahead and place the rest of your bands and loom this layer all the way down, and then we will meet back. All right, so we have our second layer of ruffles loomed up our loom here. One thing that I did want to show you is like it's not a necessity, but what I do is with the rhinestones, because they're square and they are only one-sided, if you notice when you loomed it, they might be just turned a bit. You just I just grab my loom hook and it's really easy just to kind of put it in the right direction. This particular bracelet, because you're putting so many layers on the same pegs, it makes it nice and tight, which is awesome. But right now, you know, if you don't do this now, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm just like OCD, it has to be right. You can do it later on once you have the bracelet stitched and then it's on your wrist. So do make sure that you have all of these bands pushed very, very far down. Well, please make sure that they're not overlapped, but because we are going to add yet our last layer. So we want to make sure we have enough room. And as you're following along with Yarn Journey, as she does tell you to, you know, make sure that that single chain stitch is still in place, because that is the last stitch of the bracelet. I love it. I love it. I love it because it is sparkling already. So I'm going to turn it around because this is our stitching, or the direction that we place our bands. And so you can see that it is mind-boggling to me, which is maybe because it's just me, but this bracelet, the way that we're looping it, and you see that this rhinestone here is on top of our bead below. It doesn't matter. You're not even gonna, it's amazing how the bottom layer, the first layer and the third layer end up on the sides, and this middle one ends up, you know, in the middle of the bracelet. So don't worry if your rhinestone is in the same location as your bead below. Okay, I think I talked too much, huh? Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to add our last layer of ruffle, and I'm going to do the opposite of what I did on my first. I'm so happy I'm being so complicated, yeah. I used the Persian hot pink as my bead band, and I used the glitter gold as my non-bead band. I'm just merely going to do the opposite on this last layer. I'm going to put on the bead bands will be in the glitter gold, and my plain bands will be the Persian hot pink. But again, you can use the exact same color all the way up the loom and place beads on every single band. It's all of your preference. So I think we have already an idea on how to add the beads to the bands. And if you need to have a little bit more of an understanding, please go ahead and rewind back to the first layer and you will get a better look at how to add your beads to the bands. So one thing that I do want to point out, in this layer here, I do the opposite looming pattern of a zigzag with the beads, so they do kind of end up in a different location and they're not overlapping. So what I mean by that is my first layer, I did not add a bead first, I added a regular band. So my third layer here, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add a beaded band first. Okay, so our next band, which is just a plain band, will go from the outer in, and as you can tell right there, this on the first layer, that's where we would add our bead. Okay, so now we have a bead on the opposite that are going to end up in between these gaps. So let's go ahead and add another beaded band from the center out. Will always be the beaded band, and from this outer to the inner peg will always be our plain band. Pushing it down because we do have to loom it and loom the last layer. So next is a plain band. And again, the great part about adding bling to a bracelet is you can do anything that you want. You can use any kind of bead that you want. There's no specifics. That's just how I started, is just grabbing, you know, these wonderful designs and throwing some bling on it. Alright, so we're going to stop there. And as I mentioned, if you look in between, we have a bead here, and so forth, which are all ending up on the opposite places where we have our other beads. So when you take it off your loom, you'll see those beads, and then you'll see the other beads, and they all won't be in the same position, and so on and so forth. So go ahead and finish up your loom, placing the bands and the beads, and loom it down, and we will meet back to finish up this bracelet. Alright, so we have our third layer of ruffles on our loom, and we have them looped all the way up, and finally we are to our last step, which is simply looming up that single chain to wrap it up. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So as Yarn Journey explains how to move and put back this cap band, we do have it back where we need it. And it is imperative that we make sure that we're grabbing that bottom band carefully, because that bottom one is going to hold every one of those bands inside that peg. If not, holy cow, if you ever had a bracelet fall apart, you know what the important thing is there. Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit, because if you're this far in a bracelet design, you can do a single chain. I am so excited to see these colors turn out. I'm excited to make sure that all the beads are placed correctly. You know, how I do these bracelets is just trial and error. I always make sure that I watch the bracelet being designed first, then I do the actual design with no beads, and then I actually, if I decide to add beads, it's the second or third time that we have done the actual bracelet. Alright, how exciting. We got the whole bracelet loomed. Okay, how do we know this? Because we're going to turn it over and we're going to look in between. Actually, I'm going to take this layer off. Now I'm going to look in between. And I'm going to make sure I got every one of those bands looped. Awesome. Oh my gosh, I forgot one. Holy macanoli. See, Genius Design is this one here would have been the one that we would take our single band, stick our hook down in there. So, wonderful. Alright, so let's stick our hook into this one. We're going to push it up on our loom hook, and very carefully we're going to take this off. This is not it's not very tightly woven, so you are able to pull on it a tad. Alright, so far so good. I am always scared pulling these off like this, just because I know what it's like to break a band. Oh. These Persian bands are awesome. I love them. Obviously, they have a bling effect. They're sparkly. And the glitter bands obviously as well. Huge Rainbow Loom band fan. I'm sorry, I'm my hook in your face. Oh, da da da! Wow, we are finished. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our C-clip. Just to make sure, I don't want this fabulous bracelet to fall apart. So I'm just going to add it to this end right now because I'd like to keep it straight. So we have to do a lot of pulling and putting everything into place. Awesome. Oh, I'm in love. Alright, let me do some explaining here. Let me do it a little bit, stretch it out like that. Okay, so now maybe you'll get a good understanding on why I was telling you about band placement or bead placement. Okay. For starters, I used what I had in stock, which was these big beads and these little beads. So I put all the big beads on one side, and I put all of these smaller beads on the other side. I think if I were to do this over again, and last night I actually did it, I did every other, I would definitely do that. Okay, not saying I don't love this, but I would definitely do an every other because you can clearly tell, and to me it looks a little bit out of place. So all I'm doing right now, which Yarn Journey specifically will show you, does a great job explaining, you're going to have to pull out your bands to give it that ruffle full effect. So I'm just pulling out these bands with the beads on them so they are visible on the sides. So if you have your bead in the middle of your band, you should be good to go as far as placement. See, like this one here, you can see where the band goes through the bead, so I kind of maybe push that up. But overall, it's gorgeous, and it's it's the design. The design of it it's a great design. I give a ton of credit to Yarn Journey. She is a very elegant designer. Okay, I'm trying to get these out away from your center row here so we can play with that one. So now we have our rhinestones. So as I mentioned before, you can play with these and make sure that they're being they're facing the right way and down inside the bracelet. See, like this one's tucked away, so we're going to just pull that out. And you know, Yarn Journey does explain that some of these are going to be wrapped up in here, so you just have to, you know, you have to play around with this one, even if you don't have beads on it, or you do, you have to play around. And if you notice that any of them are sticking up after you do move your rhinestones around, just tug on it and it makes it tighten back up again. This one I'd like to move a tiny bit, but just a little bit of maneuvering and you'll be able to figure it out, just to make sure that they are straight. So let's go ahead and take our cap band and add our C-clip. there we go. Now, Yarn Journey does do 18 bands in length, and I just did one loom. So, let me put this on my wrist. It actually fits me with one loom. It is a tiny bit snug, but excuse me, what I would do is I would simply add a couple links here, just a single chain, to make up the difference. Alright, so again, now this is where you can really adjust your beads and your rhinestones to make sure that they are falling right in the middle. Snap, I am happy, happy, happy. Very pretty. I hope that you guys are happy as well. I hope it turned out for you. I would love, love, love to see a picture. So please go on to Instagram and hashtag Chidero_T, which will be in the section below, as well as Yarn Journey's information. And it's a must to check out her different sites and blogs to get an understanding on how great of a crafter she is, and you will be in love with the other designs that she's done. Alright, I might have to do just a little bit of flickering here and there, but oh, it came out wonderful. I'm very, very happy with this. I hope that you're happy with yours. Thank you for joining me with another tutorial with Bling. Please make sure that you place a comment below if there's anything that I can do to change, or actually that you liked. And if it did work out for you and I did inspire you, please press the like button and stay tuned. We've got more coming. So, till next time, let's bling it.